Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 9th of October of 2024. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the United States of America. Today we got 100% sure confirmation that the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, is not going to Germany for Ramstein due to the hurricane of Milton that is going to happen these upcoming days. Later we got additional report that US Secretary of State Blinken, following Biden, has cancelled his visit to Germany for Ramstein as well. That was stated by US State Department spokesman Matthew Miller. And later we got additional report from German media, and according to Der Spiegel, that the meeting of the contact group on Ukraine, which was planned to be held at the Ramstein air base on October 12th, was cancelled. So this is the situation. Of course, the Western politicals decided to use the hurricane of Milton as the excuse not to conduct this meeting, but obviously the sources reported that the main reason of the cancellation of the upcoming event is that currently the Allies still doesn't have the common position regarding attacks with the cruise missiles deep inside the territory of Russia. So the decision on permission to strike deep into Russian territory may be made soon, but the announcement will be postponed until after the US president elections. So obviously not very soon, and most likely until the end of the year we will not gonna see any strikes deep inside the territory of Russia. And this is very important because the United States of America changed their mind, because most of all they received additional information from Russia about the consequences of this decision, and they decided not to do this. Now let's talk about the situation on the ground, and we received today lots of very interesting and very weird updates from the Siversk direction. Let's discuss this in details. Today the Russian sources published the video how they were raising the flag in the most eastern part of the village by the name of Grigorovka. And based on this video, most of the mappers have adjusted their maps. Furthermore, most of the mappers began drawing additional lines and arrows further in the western directions towards the village of Serebryanka. And as for some pro-Russian mappers, currently they show these maps. As you can see, according to some pro-Russian sources, there are very heavy clashes already on the territory of the village by the name of Serebryanka. So you can say what is weird, everything is okay, but the problem is that during the previous 24 hours, lots of pro-Russian resources, lots of pro-Russian military experts stated that every single report that we've been receiving since the beginning of August or September about the Siversk direction was fake. So, for example, the pro-Russian military expert Ribor reported that the Russians came to the village of Grigorovka. That was something like a sabotage and reconnaissance group. This sabotage and reconnaissance group raised their flag, and after they made the video, the Russians ran away from this area further in the direction of their main positions in the vicinity of the village by the name of Kreminna. Furthermore, the Russian military expert Ribor stated that yesterday's video of Russian flag in the most western part of Verkhnyokamyanska is also fake. The Russian expert is saying that this flag was established by the Russians with drones. So I'll remind you that almost a week ago the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result of clashes the Russians took under control Verkhnyokamyanska. Just a week after, so yesterday, the Russians published the video with flag, and today the military experts, pro-Russian military experts, reported that all these reports were fake, just wishful thinking, an attempt to, to serve to Russian generals to show that everything is good on this direction. Furthermore, some sources reported that the report about the control of Vyimka is also fake. This information was published by the Russians also a few weeks ago. But since the beginning of September, we received a lot of updates exactly from this territory of how the Ukrainians were FPV droning, of how the Russians and the Ukrainians were FPV droning each other in this line. And there were no video from the territory of Vyimka itself. The Russians reported the 1st of September that Vyimka was captured, but yet we haven't received anything that can confirm this. Anyway, very weird and very strange information, because lots of people realize their updates and they're planning their own not just let's say making videos. Different, I believe that different military soldiers who connected with the special military operation, both from Ukrainian from Russian side, make a lot of let's say changes, make a lot of decisions based sometimes on maps that they can get access from the open source. So very strange and very weird situation. And summarizing everything, we can make a conclusion that according to the Minister of Defense and very pro-Russian sources, currently this is the line of combat contact between the city of Siversk and possible Russian positions in the eastern part of Serebyanka, Verkhnyakamyanska, and in the northeast western part of Vyimka. But according to pro-Russian military expert Ryber and many other pro-Russian military experts that support and agree with Ryber, currently the line of combat contact goes along this line. So much far from this, from the previous one. The Russians have even more. The Russians, according to even Ryber, still haven't established control over the village of Bilogorovka. Bilogorovka, Verkhnyakamyanska, Vyimka, Grigorivka, still under Ukraine control, and this territory under strong control over under the forces of the 81st and 54th Mechanized Brigades. So very interesting and very weird situation. We are expecting for some clarifications from the Minister of Defense, because if the Minister of Defense was lying us during the previous months, then they need to punish those generals and those officers who were responsible for that lie. But if Ryber is wrong, then probably he needs to be responsible for his words as well. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the Kupiansk direction. During the previous 24 hours, we haven't received any changes in the vicinity of Peshchana, but I'm talking about the changes on the ground. But as for the north in Kupiansk direction, during the previous day, we got a lot of updates of how the Russians continue bombing and attacking, destroying Ukrainian logistic in the vicinity of Petropavlovka along the river of Oskol. For example, in this video we can see another ADAP 1500 that arrived on the temporary deployment point of the armored forces of Ukraine, maybe the forces of 14th Mechanized Brigade or something like this. A little bit further in the southern direction we have another video of how the Russians destroyed Pontoon Bridge. This is probably 1000th video in a row that we've received since the beginning of the special military operation, and a few more ADAP 1500 arrived in the cities and the villages of Lushkovka and in the village of Kruglakovka. So the territory is under very heavy fire, but the Russians are not moving. Maybe there are clashes right now, but for some reason we don't have any changes on the ground. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Kursk direction, because we received a lot of very interesting updates, and they are coming from the northeastern and the western part of the Sudzha direction. Today the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to take under control the village of Petrovsky, this Pokrovsky, and as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to establish complete control over the village by the name of Pogribki. So of course, based on the situation in the Siversk direction, it's good to have some clarifications from the Minister of Defense. But as for now, we still consider the Minister of Defense as a reliable source, so we will follow and making changes according to their reports until we get some light about the situation in Siversk. Anyway, summarizing everything, the Russians as a result of offensive took under control this part, these small fields, and the Russians took under control these fields and this village. So this is the changes on the ground according to the reports of the Minister of Defense of the 9th of October. And summarizing everything, we can see that the Russians are trying to move like using these roads of attack, and the Russians most likely are planning to move in this direction from the northeastern part. And of course, when we have drawn these arrows, of course another arrow can be drawn like this one. Most likely during the next few days the Russians will intensify their activity along these roads of attack as well. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Toretsk agglomeration. During the previous 24 hours we got lots of very interesting updates. The Ukrainian sources published the video of the situation on the ground, and in this video we can see the video was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, and in this video we can see several significant number of FPV drone attacks on Russian positions all over the entire city of Toretsk. There are lots of episodes, as you can see. Some of the episodes were geolocated. Some of these episodes is impossible to geolocate. We have added on map everything we could geolocate. For example, few strikes took place in the block of Zabalka in these 2 points. Several strikes took place in the central citadel. One of the strikes took place on the territory of the former prison, and 2 more strikes took place in the eastern part of the city. Based on all these geolocations, we have adjusted the map in Russian favor. And furthermore, some pro-Russian sources reported that as a result of clashes, the Russians managed to break through the Ukrainian defense belt on the territory of Toretsk mine, and that there are very heavy clashes already on the industrial zone of Toretsk Vuhilya coal mine and the territory of the landfill. So these are decisive days. Decisive days are coming. If the Russians are able to defeat the Ukrainians, then we can start counting days when the entire city of Toretsk is going to be captured by the Russians. Furthermore, we got additional reports from the central part. According to neutral mappers like Siversk, the Russians managed to improve their positions in the central part of Toretsk itself as well. The Ukrainian sources published several videos of how they were counterattacking the Russians in the central citadel. It's very difficult to understand when exactly this video was made. Maybe this is old video, maybe a fresh one. Anyway, this is the situation. Now let's move further and let's talk about the Kurakhova direction. As for the Kurachovka cauldron, during the previous 24 hours we got just one video from the territory between the town of Gornyak and the village of Kurachovka. In this video we can see several FPV drone attacks on the Ukrainian communication equipment, and that's it. As you can see, during the previous 24 hours we haven't received anything additional from the Russian side, just regular reports from soldiers on the ground and the sources on the ground, and the sources are saying that the Russians were able to break through the defenses of Tsukurine and the Izmailovka area and to reach the eastern outskirts of Novoselidovka. The direction of this offensive in this direction clearly indicates the desire of the Russians to get behind the defenders who are defending themselves in the town of Gornyak. So now the pro-Ukrainian sources began talking about the things that we've been talking since the beginning of October, but yet despite a significant number of talks and rumors, we still haven't received even a single geolocation that confirms Russian progress in this area between these 2 villages. As soon as we get one, of course, we will change the color of map, and this will indicate the complete creation of Gornyak Kurakhova cauldron. As for pro-Ukrainian mappers, just today Deep State confirmed additional Russian progress in the central part, but still, according to them, there are very heavy clashes in the territory of Western Farms. Now let's move further. We have additional changes on the ground on the Uglidar direction. The Russian forces managed to improve their positions in the vicinity of these facilities. This is the changes on map according to pro-Ukrainian mappers. So this territory was captured by the Russians during the previous 24 hours. Also, we have additional reports from the village of Antonovka and Katerinovka. According to reliable Russian sources, the first Russian sabotage and stormtrooper sabotage reconnaissance groups and stormtroopers entered the southeastern part of both villages, and currently this is the line of combat contact, and the Russians control the entire southeastern part of the village of Antonovka and Katerinovka, but still without any geolocations, without any videos that can confirm this additional progress of the armed force of Russian Federation. Now let's move further. We have additional updates from the Zaporozhye direction. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians moved their focus, FPV focus, further into the north of the village of Plavny. In this video we can see the several FPV drone attacks on Ukrainian positions in the southern part of Stepnogorsk. Currently we can't tell for sure whether the Russians are planning to begin moving in this direction, but obviously the Russians do have certain activity that indicates some further plans to continue offensive in the northern directions towards the city of Zaporozhye. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, share my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.